Welcome to Section 5, Reading Response Guide for the Maze Runner. This film is going to go through the step-by-step thought process for responding to the prompts in Section 5. So, for the first item here, the student is asked to explain why the tests that the gladers face are the complications of the rising action. So, the steps that we want to follow are listed here below. First, we want to look up the word complications, find the definition of that word, and use that to help us answer the prompt. Next, research the rising action component of the story. The rising action is found within Freytag's pyramid, and at this point in the story, we have events that show conflict as we move towards the next step in Freytag's pyramid, which is the climactic moment. Now, at this point, use your novel to look back to page 301 and read through the text. Now, consider the variables of the maze. What are the things that are holding the gladers back from finding the exit? Now, write your topic sentence. Be sure to use the words tests, complications, and rising action as you explain the different complications that the gladers face. Next, discuss the rising action element of the plot. There are a couple examples that you could use here. So think back through to the major points of conflict that the gladers have experienced as they try to escape the maze. Now, explain why these tests the gladers face are complications. So, what are the issues or the problems that the gladers are facing as they go to attempt their escape from the maze? Finally, conclude your thoughts by summarizing or restating your topic sentence. Moving on to our next prompt. This prompt has to do with the glade itself and how it symbolizes safety and security for some, yet for others it symbolizes despair and hopelessness. Now, you're given two page numbers to refer back to within the text. So, think about what Chuck remembers on page 192, and then think about what Albie remembers on page 312. Now, couple steps for this particular prompt. You need to first look up the definition of symbolism. Also, if needed, look up the words safety, security, despair, and hopelessness. If you're unsure what one of these words mean, now is the time to find that definition. Now, you will be comparing the two ideas of the outside world. So this is where you will read pages 192 and 312 to find Chuck and Albie's opinions of the outside world. You're going to be pulling your textual evidence from these two pages. Now, write your topic sentence restating the words gladers, outside world, safety and security, symbolizes, and despair and hopelessness. Next, you need to explain the predicament of the gladers to the reader. So explain to the reader what problem the gladers are facing. Now, you need to use your textual evidence that you found on page 192 to explain Chuck's point of view about the outside world. Next, in your own words, explain why Chuck's world symbolizes something positive. Now, you're going to go back into the book and find textual evidence from page 312 that states Albie's point of view regarding the outside world. After you've written your textual evidence down on your paper, you need to use your own words and explain why Albie's world symbolizes something negative. Finally, conclude with different words than your topic sentence. Our next prompt has to do with Freytag's pyramid. At this point in the novel, we are at the end of the rising action as we head towards the climactic moment in the novel. In chapter 54, Newt proclaims that the gladers will go into battle and face the antagonists. So, what we need to do to answer this prompt. First, we want to look up the definition to the climax in Freytag's pyramid. Next, consider the definition of antagonist. What does the antagonist do within the novel? Our next step here is to read through chapter 54 and find three pieces of textual evidence that relate to who the antagonists are. Following the acquisition of your textual evidence, you need to make sure that you are restating the maze runner, climax, battle, and face the antagonists within your topic sentence. explain to the reader what is happening in the plot at this time in the novel. Next, use your pieces of textual evidence to answer the topic sentence or to help restate what you are trying to prove within the topic sentence. Next, explain why your pieces of textual evidence tell the reader about the antagonists. Finally, conclude by restating the topic sentence with different words. Again, we don't want to bore the reader, so that's why we are restating the topic sentence using different words to keep everything interesting. Prompt 5.4 has to do with a character that sacrifices themselves to the grievers. Now, what we need to do when we answer this prompt. First, we need to determine which character sacrifices themselves to the grievers. Next, form an opinion about the sacrifice. Was this sacrifice by this character good or bad, and selfish or unselfish? So once you have an opinion, read through chapter 55 to find 3 pieces of text. Next, write your topic sentence, introduce the character, explain their actions, and state your opinion. Once you've written your topic sentence, explain the main point in the plot to the reader. What is happening at this time within the novel? Next, use your 3 pieces of textual evidence to justify your opinion. Once you've written your textual evidence, explain how each piece of textual evidence supports your opinion. Finally, conclude with different words from the topic sentence, again, to keep the reader interested in your paragraph. Our final prompt this week has to do with one of the themes in the novel, which is the theme of friendship. On page 340, there is an event that occurs that shows how Thomas feels about Chuck as a friend. So, to answer this prompt, follow these steps. Think about how Thomas and Chuck's friendship has changed from the start of the novel. Next, read the events that occur on page 340. Find textual evidence that supports Thomas's feelings about Chuck. There's a great quote towards the bottom of page 340. Next, write a topic sentence that restates the prompt. So you're talking about how Thomas's feelings about Chuck have changed as the novel continues. Now, explain to the reader the background events. What is the problem that the Gladers are attempting to solve, and how are they going about solving that problem? Now, use your textual evidence to justify your opinion about Thomas's friendship towards Chuck. Now, use your commentary to comment on why your textual evidence supports your opinion. Finally, conclude with a sentence that restates your topic sentence but uses different words. So, there you have the thought process guide for the Maze Runner Reading Response Section 5.